And it was during the Cold War, and especially in the 50s, that people who'd earned their stripes in wartime intelligence and deception really began to flex their muscles. At this time, the still wet behind the ears CIA hired a famous stage illusionist, John Mulholland, we see here, to write a manual for what he appropriately called tricksters, agents in the field using sleight of hand and other magical techniques to fool their opponents. Mulholland also investigated seances and telepathy experiments for the CIA, especially those of Joseph Rhine, the father of American parapsychology based at Duke University. And like most illusionists, Mulholland remained unconvinced by the seance room phenomena that he saw, though his research into telepathy would, 2 decades later, feed into the remote viewing program. But perhaps the most sinister and still little-known organization of the Cold War was the Psychological Strategy Board, many of whose papers are still secret. And the board was tasked with coordinating psychological operations at home and abroad and ensuring that America and Americans looked, sounded, and thought right. And if this sounds Orwellian, that's because it was. Even the contents of its first strategy paper are still classified, though traces of it can be found referenced in other documents. According to one of these, the PSB's role was to develop a machinery to promote the American way of life and to counter hostile doctrines. To do so, they would take in, quote, all fields of intellectual interests, from anthropology and artistic creation to sociology and scientific methodology, and would require the control, procurement, and production of everything from scholarly seminars, symposia, special tomes, learned journals and libraries, to church services, comic books, folk songs, folklore, folk tales, and itinerant storytellers, and no doubt UFO conferences. And the PSB's message was broadcast over the television and over the radio, from ships and from aircraft, and they even deployed three-dimensional moving images for added realism. And it's worth pointing out at this time in the early 50s, American cinemas were enjoying a huge 3D boom, so it's a very fashionable idea.